Hello, everybody. After information came from Washington about Donald Trump's completely halting military aid to Ukraine, and on the eve of the American president's address to the United States Congress, Volodymyr Zelensky addressed Donald Trump with a post on social media. In this post, written in English, Zelensky emphasizes that no Ukrainian wants an endless war. Ukraine is ready to sit at the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring about lasting peace. No one wants peace as much as Ukrainians do, Zelensky states. My team and I are ready to work under the strong leadership of President Trump to achieve a lasting peace. We are ready to work quickly to end the war, and the first steps could include the release of prisoners and ceasefire in the air, a ban on long-range missiles, drones and bombs targeting energy and other civilian infrastructure, as well as an immediate ceasefire at sea, provided that Russia does the same. After that, we want to move very quickly through all subsequent stages and work with the United States to establish a solid final agreement. Volodymyr Zelensky recalls that Donald Trump once provided javelins to Ukraine and emphasizes that this was a turning point. Speaking about recent meeting with Trump at the White House, the Ukrainian president states that the meeting did not go as it should have been and expressed regret that this was the case. It is time to make everything right, he says, wishing for future cooperation and communication to be constructive. The post also highlights that regarding the agreement on mineral resources and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time and in any convenient format. We see this agreement as a step forward, as a step towards greater security and reliable security guarantees, and I sincerely hope it will work effectively, Zelensky states. Essentially, Zelensky post fulfills all the likely wishes of members of the U.S. administrations who wanted him to continue his dialogue with Donald Trump. Perhaps even Trump himself, who has spoken about the need for Ukraine to demonstrate its commitment to peace. It also aligns with the preferences of European partners who have been pushing for ways to establish a ceasefire between the Ukrainian president and his American counterpart. It is also evident in this post Volodymyr Zelensky decided to support the European ceasefire plan previously proposed by French President Emmanuel Macron and the United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The French and British leaders had suggested a temporary ceasefire in the air and at sea, as well as halting attacks on energy and other civilian infrastructure. However, the main question remains: how will President Zelensky and his team willingness to work under the leadership of United States President to seek peace align with the clear unwillingness of Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate even a temporary ceasefire on the Russian-Ukrainian front? After all, the Russian president is not planning to work under the leadership of US President. Putin wants Trump to work under his leadership and agree to all the Russian leaders' demand, at least when it comes to the conditions for ending the war in Ukraine. As is well known, both the Russian president and his officials have repeatedly emphasized that, in their view, the primary conditions for ending the war in Ukraine is not just reaching a ceasefire agreement or even a temporary cessation of hostilities, as the US president continues to insist, but achieving a sustainable peace. Secondly, they argue that the root causes of this conflict must be eliminated, causes that are primarily linked to Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic integration and its right to choose its own path of development, which does not align with the Russian Federation's goal of eliminating Ukraine as an independent state, at least as a sovereign nation. How the US president plans to negotiate with the Russian president on a ceasefire, a truce, or even more so a sustainable peace remains unknown, and the first person who has no idea how to do this is, of course, Donald Trump. Thus, It is only appropriate to welcome the fact that Vladimir Zelensky is willing to operate within this virtual reality that comfortably exists in the mind of the US president, if, of course, this helps restore American arms shipments to Ukraine. Because it is entirely possible that Donald Trump simply used this as an excuse to implement a decision he had wanted to make from the very first day he was elected US president, a decision he had warned about as a form of pressure specifically on Ukraine. I mean, the holding of shipments of arms to Ukraine. He was telling about it, even before the elections. Given that the Russian political leadership pays no attention to American proposals and welcomes the steps the US is currently taking towards Ukraine, it remains unclear how the US president will react to the obvious fact that he is incapable of exerting pressure on the Russian leadership. When the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov states that halting military aid to Ukraine is an obvious step towards peace on the part of the United States, we must not forget that both Peskov and his boss Vladimir Putin defined peace as Ukraine's capitulation, followed by the occupation of Ukrainian territory, the killing of civilians, and missile and bomb attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure to destroy everything Russia was not yet able to occupy. The key question today is whether the US president is ready to turn his country into an accomplice to the crimes we have been witnessing from Russian side, not just since 2022, but since 2014. Obviously, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky cannot answer this question. The only person who can determine how far the US is willing to go in aiding Vladimir Putin in his further aggressive plans that involve both Ukraine and other European countries, is Donald Trump himself. And I'm not sure we will get an answer to this question in the speech the US president is set to deliver today before the US Congress, where he will outline his new political plans regarding Russia-Ukraine war, relations with European nations and other allies that were once considered key partners to the United States. Thank you for watching, have a nice day, and Slava Ukraini!